to see that anymore. All right, let's go through some of these scenes. I only watched it the one time last night before I posted our post on it. So that's my second time looking at it, and yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there. So let's look at some of those. So it starts off. One of the things I remarked on when we were just watching it now was kind of the aspect ratio change. So it's kind of rounded off to look like they're in some sort of TV tube, like the old school TV tubes. And that's kind of the way it started. And we see them at the beginning with their, looking like they're happily married, which is interesting in and of itself because we know what happened to Vision at the end of Avengers Infinity War, and he was not a factor in Avengers Endgame. So there's a lot of question about what's going on with him, basically. And of course, we get a hint at what could be going on with him at the end of the trailer. But here in the beginning, we see that we see him use his powers to change his face so that he looks human. He's about to go out looking like Vision. So his powers work in this reality, and so do hers. So do Wanda's. So that's something. That's a tell right there that some of the normal rules do apply in this place. Wherever they are, whatever is happening, the normal rules seem to apply. So he can use his powers, and she can use hers. Here's our first look at Catherine Hahn, who I absolutely fucking adore. Catherine Hahn, she's always great in everything she does, and I'm so happy that she's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even if this is the only thing we're ever going to see her in. Although I don't think it is. I don't think it is. And I think there's kind of not necessarily a clue to that, but if she's the character that they've been saying that she might be, which is Agatha Harkness, then she could be around for a while, and I think she could show up again very soon. Actually, I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But there's Catherine Hahn as their neighbor. When she first signed on, they called her just the nosy neighbor, which was very, very vague, and vague for a reason, because they don't want us to know who she really is. And like I said, I think she is Agatha Harkness, who is very crucial in the development of Wanda of Wanda's powers, basically. Wanda in the MCU is a mutant with hex powers, which means she affects probability fields. So if she needs something improbable to happen at a certain moment, she can sort of make it happen. But she also has mystical and magical powers, and Agatha Harkness, that's her specialty, and she's very key in helping develop those powers. So her presence here, if this is Agatha, means something. So there is Wanda using her powers right there, very Bewitched style, I guess, or I Dream of Jeannie style. Well, probably a little bit more Bewitched in this case. So that's her using her powers there. Like I said earlier, it shows that the normal laws do work in this reality for her. So she can use her powers. Vision can use his powers. So that's a key. That's a key aspect of wherever it is that they are. It suggests that they are somewhere in her making, not necessarily from somebody else's making, who probably would have dampened their power somehow. Okay, this scene has caused all kinds of stir online on Twitter, and I've been tweeting about it this morning a little bit. Basically, the bottle of wine, which gets a little bit of time in the trailer. It reads as House of something. I can't remember what it was, but people have interpreted it as a sign that this is the House of M storyline. I really fucking doubt it. Okay, now Marvel could be alluding to the House of M storyline, right? I mean, look, I admit they didn't put that on the label right there for no reason, right? House of whatever that word is, I can't remember what it is, but you see the big fat M right there at the beginning. The House of M storyline is crucial in the MCU, even though it's a terrible story in my opinion. When basically Wanda goes nuts. She's gone nuts plenty of times in the MCU, but she goes nuts. Specifically over the false birth of two children that she has. Her mind fractures even more than it already has. It ends with the whole decimation of mutant kind. Basically, it's a really big storyline. It involves the Avengers and the X-Men. So people are excited about seeing this because they expect it to be some sort of backdoor introduction to the X-Men. I really doubt it. The House of M storyline is super convoluted. It ties very heavily into her family, which consists of Quicksilver, Magneto, who was their father, and other people in the family. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It's super complicated. And even if Marvel tried to, it also involves characters like switching their forms, becoming different versions of themselves. It's way too complex, especially if you're going to try to use it to introduce the X-Men. If you're going to introduce the X-Men, you do it in a much simpler fashion. You don't need to do all this to introduce the X-Men. Have one of them pop up in a post-credit scene. That's all you need to do. You don't need to do a whole lot. You certainly don't need to do a complicated storyline like House of M. But I'll cop to the fact that this bottle is there for a reason, and I think it's to get people talking. And it could just be a fun little Easter egg. Marvel does that too. Somebody remarked to me today that Marvel doesn't put stuff like in this for no reason. I'm like, they put Easter eggs in their movies all the time and don't always follow through on them. But this is something that I think they're nodding, they're giving a tip to the cap to House of M, in that this series is going to show her in much the same way as it showed her in House of M, which is somebody who's fractured reality and her powers are spiking dangerously. And I think that is the illusion. That's what it's to. It's not some sort of tie to the X-Men. I think that's crazy. At least in my opinion. So here we see that 70s show veteran, Deborah Joe Rupp. Always good to see her in just about anything. Deborah Joe Rupp as a neighbor who was having over for dinner and inquiring about Wanda and Vision's history, and basically asking where they met, why don't they have kids, and what's interesting about it, more so than the fact that Deborah Joe Rupp is there, because they did not announce her casting as far as I know. But I think I had posted about it at some point, because her casting had been listed, but not specifically announced. But anyway, so she's asking them about how they got together and why don't they have kids and all this, and Wanda and Vision, they don't have any answers. They can't answer. Now the question is can they not answer because they don't know? Or are they being stopped from answering? Are they being mentally blocked from answering? Because what are they going to say? Oh yeah, we're Avengers from such and such, and we just got out of a huge battle with Thanos. Ever heard of him? Ever met him? I don't know. So we don't know what the cause of this blockage is. That's what's interesting. And there is veteran character actor Fred Melamed. He was in Simple Man or Single Man, not one of those things, not one of those movies. Fred Melamed has been everywhere, and his character here is interesting too because he gets infuriated when they can't answer those questions. That to me suggests that he is also part of some fabricated reality, or it's somebody using him to probe for an answer to a question. So whoever is controlling this reality, whether it's Wanda or somebody on the outside, needs some information about them. and when he can't use Fred Melamad's character to get it, Melamad's character gets outraged. So that suggests that somebody's using him as a tool of some kind, to find out this information, which I think is pretty interesting. Is it Agatha Harkness or is it somebody else? We don't know. We're gonna find out, and I can't wait to find out. Good to see Fred Melamed too. I hope he's in more than just like one episode. Okay, so eventually it changes out of the 1950s style sitcom and begins to look a little bit more like the Brady Bunch, which is what this kind of looks like, or the Partridge Family. The color has come back in, the aspect ratio changes. Look at the style of clothing. It's probably reminiscent of the late 60s, maybe early 70s, I would say, somewhere around there. But this reality is going to shift, and we don't know what's going to trigger that. Whether it's a specific act that triggers it, or if it's just each episode is going to take place with a different look, which would be kind of interesting too. Okay, so these are a little bit out of order, but we're gonna show this one. This one is interesting too. That is somebody being forced out of what looked like they were being forced out of the neighborhood where Wanda and Vision are. Somebody being forcefully repelled by Wanda out of their reality. Of course, we would see who this person is at the very end of the trailer. But she is getting hurled really hard, and the fact that she's not dead already tells you this person's a superhero. And she's got an afro. Look at her, and it looks like she's wearing a stunt costume. This shot is Vision in a classic, kind of cheaply made version of his original Avengers costume, his classic Avengers costume. This seems to be taking place around Halloween time, which is perfect. Because there's a shot earlier in the trailer of him kind of exiting the house, and kids are out in trick-or-treat costumes. And we see a shot earlier of Wanda in her original Scarlet Witch costume. So this does seem to be around Halloween time. Okay. So this appears to be in modern context. It's Catherine Hahn again. And this is Vision. Vision leaves the house, like I said, around Halloween. It's dark and kids are outside. He sees a car parked outside, and he goes over to it, and he sees Catherine Hahn's character there, looking like she's sort of in a catatonic state. Vision touches her and breaks her from that trance, and she says something like, "Am I dead?" And we just saw the trailer, and he goes, "No, why would you think that?" And she goes, "Because you are." And then she breaks out into that evil laugh, and look, she's dressed up as a witch. She looks more like Agatha Harkness right there than ever before, except for the fact that Agatha Harkness is like 100 years old. Agatha Harkness is super old. She might be super old in this show too. Maybe that's a ruse, like a glamour that she has on herself to make her look young. But she knows Vision died. She knows Vision died in Avengers Infinity War. And the fact that he's alive, for some reason, makes her feel pretty good. She thinks it's funny. But the fact that she was in a trance also suggests that maybe she's trapped here too. Maybe they're all trapped there by Wanda. That could be what's going on. She could be the only one there who knows what's going on. And she's powerful enough. She's powerful enough to know what's going on. So maybe that's what's happening here. But like I said, I think Catherine Hahn's character is going to be around for a while. Not just in this series, but beyond. It's supposedly this show is going to tie in very closely with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. because Wanda is going to be in that film. And if it's a film that has her teaming up with Doctor Strange, I expect that it will be another film where Wanda is kind of learning her powers. And if that's the case, then Agatha Harkness would almost certainly be a part of that too. I would love to see Kathryn Hahn have a deeper role in the MCU and not just be in WandaVision. Just keep her tied to Wanda until, I don't know, Fantastic Four arrive. She has ties to them too. She has ties to a lot of people, but in particular Wanda and the increasing of her mystical abilities. There's Kathryn Hahn again. This looks like it takes place in the 80s. Just the hot pink, the neon, the leggings, the hair. So clearly this thing is going to be going through a lot of different generations. A lot of different generations of TV. I would love it if they just stayed in the 80s like that. I could stand and look at Kathryn Hahn in hot pants and hot pink leggings for a few episodes. I'd be fine with that. Yeah, she says something really ominous when she first walks in the door too. Something like this is going to be a real gas or something like that. Which, I mean, it's a stupid neighbor thing type thing to say, like the annoying neighbor who pops in and is like, "This is going to be a gas." It sounds like something like that, but could also mean something more. All right, this shot also has people riled up, as well it should. So here we are. We see Wanda and Vision bouncing a couple of baby boys, or babies. Well, they're boys because they're wearing blue. So a couple of baby boys on their arms. And like I told you when I was describing House of M, I mean, the whole thing stems largely from the fact that the birth of the children that she thought she had with Vision turned out to be a figment of her imagination, basically, or a creation of her reality warping powers. Those kids eventually do emerge into reality, and they become the heroes known as Wiccan and Speed, who are members of the Young Avengers. I've been saying for months that the Young Avengers were happening, and while Marvel hasn't said anything, they've been doing it right under our nose with all these announcements of all these shows. All the Marvel shows on Disney Plus have some sort of connection to the Young Avengers. Almost all of them. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, to Young Avenger Patriot, Loki, Kid Loki, Young Avenger, Hawkeye with Kate. I can't remember her name. Kate Bishop, who was Hawkeye. Remember Young Avengers. Miss Marvel, connected to Young Avengers. We just learned that the role of Immortus is going to be played. Is going to be featured in one of the upcoming shows. Can't remember which show it was. The youngest version of him is Iron Lad, connected to the Young Avengers. And here, WandaVision, Wiccan and Speed, connected to the Young Avengers. I mean, they're all here. They're all here. And it's just, I mean, they're doing it, and we're not knowing anything about it. We're not hearing anything about it, but they're doing it. They haven't made any official Young Avengers announcements or anything like that, but I fully expect that these shows will lead to a Young Avengers TV series, which will then have those characters somehow debut on the big screen. That's kind of where I see it going. But yeah, this image caused a stir. Alright, so here we see military force. Looks like it's S.H.I.E.L.D. of some kind, or something related to S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, we don't know what the status of S.H.I.E.L.D. is right now in the Marvel Universe. They've barely been a presence ever since, like, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. They have barely been a presence. So we don't know what their real focus is, what their status is right now. But we do know that Randall Park is going to be reprising his role as Jimmy Woo from the Ant-Man movies. So he's going to be back. And Kat Dennings is back as Darcy from the Thor films. And they're probably working with S.H.I.E.L.D. in some way. Here we go. We see another look at their facility that they've laid out. Kind of looks like the facilities from the early Avengers films and Thor films. Kind of looks exactly. It kind of looks like that, doesn't it? Looks pretty much the same. Kind of a makeshift operation. Oh, and then there's that lady who got thrown from the neighborhood with her afro. It is Tiana Paris as Monica Rambo, who is the adult daughter of Maria Rambo, who we met in Captain Marvel. Now, Monica Rambo was a really key character in the Marvel Universe. She is another person who has taken the mantle of Captain Marvel. She's been Miss Marvel, she's been Photon, she's been Spectrum. She's been a lot of things. But she is a superhero. She has light powers, light speed, light beams, light speed of light. She's a very powerful character. She's been a leader of the Avengers too. She's been one of their leaders. So she is a key fixture, and I'm very curious to see. It looks like she must be working with S.H.I.E.L.D. in some way. It doesn't mean she's a member of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she must be working with them in some way. They probably sent her in there to investigate, and she got hurled out of there. So yeah, I'm super hyped for Monica Rambeau. She's one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters, and I've always wanted to see her get her due on the big screen. This is pretty exciting, and the fact that they cast Tiana Paris, who's an amazing actress. Remember, she debuted, really, for most people, with Chirac. She was also in Dear White People. Great. She was just in If Beale Street Could Talk. She's just great. I love her. So I'm happy to see her playing one of the great Marvel heroines. And then it sort of ends with Wanda and Vision remarking about how unusual they are as a couple, which they are, of course. This show is going to be very, very interesting, man. Very interesting. I don't know what it's going to lead to, I think is the thing. Like, I know it's going to take us through, and Wanda is going to, go through her mental instability problems, and her powers are probably going to jump to an all-new level. But what from there? What's up with Vision? Like, is this it for Vision? Like, I can't see Paul Bettany being like, I want to stick around the Marvel Universe forever. I mean, maybe he does, but is this like the swan song for him? Where does Vision go from here? Like, if he's at the end of this, we could see Vision brought back into reality too, just like, just like she could probably bring her kids into the reality, just like she does in the comics. I don't know. I don't know where this goes. I don't know who the big bad of this series is. Is it Agatha Harkness? Like, is she evil in this? Is she bad in this? And she's causing all this? Like, that doesn't seem right to me either. So after this, we'll probably get Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which, like I said before, is supposed to be tied into Black Widow in some way. Probably through a post-credit scene. That introduces a new Black Widow. That's probably what's going to happen. And then we have other shows, Hawkeye and Loki, and like you said, we talked about all these, Miss Marvel, She-Hulk, all these shows that are coming up. Probably most of them will be next year. But this is going to be the one and only live action project from Marvel that we're getting this year. This is it. This is all we're getting. There's been no Spider-Man. There's no nothing. No Avengers. But nothing. We haven't had any Marvel in a very, very long time. Very long time. Which puts a lot of pressure on this show to be great. And I don't know. I expect that Marvel is gonna follow through on that. It's gonna be great. We already know they're putting movie-sized money behind these shows, and just looking at this trailer, you can tell it looks like it could be a movie. So, yeah, they're gonna make a big deal out of this, as well they should. I'm excited. I can't wait. If it's coming in December, you know, give it to me. Give it to me.